The smell hit me first. Burnt coffee. Grease that had seeped into every crack of the linoleum floor, and something vaguely sweet from the pie display that hadn't been cleaned in God knows how long. My feet ached in shoes 2 sizes too small. Hand-me-downs from my roommate who'd quit this job last month. She'd warned me about the diner, about the long hours and the customers who'd leave pennies as tips. But I didn't have the luxury of being picky. Not anymore. I pushed through the double doors into the kitchen, the heat hitting my face like a wall. "Order up!" Eddie barked from behind the grill, his face red and shining with sweat. I grabbed 2 plates, eggs over easy, hash browns that looked more gray than golden, and carried them to table 7. The trucker barely looked at me as I set them down, just grunted and reached for the ketchup. This was my 3rd day at Rosie's Diner, and I was still learning the rhythm of the place. The morning rush had been brutal, a blur of coffee refills and shouted orders and plates that threatened to slip from my trembling hands. Now, at 2 in the afternoon, the lunch crowd had thinned to a handful of regulars who knew better than to expect much from a place like this. I was invisible here, just another waitress in a stained apron, dark circles under my eyes from too many sleepless nights in an apartment where the heat barely worked. 23 years old, and I felt ancient, worn down by a city that chewed up girls like me and spit them out without a second thought. The bell above the door chimed, and I glanced up out of habit. Everything slowed. 3 men walked in, but my eyes locked on the one in the middle. He moved like water, fluid and unhurried, while the 2 flanking him scanned the room with sharp, predatory gazes. The man in the center wore a suit that probably cost more than my entire year's rent. Charcoal gray, perfectly tailored to broad shoulders that tapered to a narrow waist. His shoes were Italian leather, gleaming even in the diner's fluorescent lights. But it was his face that made my breath catch. Sharp jawline, dark hair swept back with a precision that spoke of expensive barbers and morning routines I couldn't fathom. He had the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers or movie screens, all angles and shadows, and his eyes, dark, almost black, swept the diner with an intensity that made the hair on my arms stand up. He didn't belong here. None of them did. The 2 men with him positioned themselves near the door and the back exit, their hands resting casually at their sides in a way that seemed anything but casual. Security, I realized. Bodyguards. My manager, Rita, materialized from the back office, her eyes widening as she took in the trio. She smoothed her hair, suddenly flustered, and gestured toward the corner booth, the best seat in the house if you could call any seat in this dump good. "Right this way, sir," she said, her voice pitching higher than usual. The man in the center, the one who commanded the space around him like gravity itself bent to his will, nodded once. Brief, economical. He moved toward the booth, and as he passed me, I caught his scent. Expensive cologne, cedar, and something darker, mixed with the faint smell of cigarette smoke. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. He didn't look at me. I was beneath his notice, just part of the scenery. I should have been relieved. Instead, something in my chest twisted with an emotion I couldn't name. Rita assigned me to his table. Probably because I was the newest, and she didn't want to deal with whatever this was. My hands shook as I grabbed a notepad and pen, taking a breath before approaching the corner booth. Up close, he was even more intimidating. He sat with perfect posture, one hand resting on the table, the other hidden beneath it. A gold watch caught the light, Rolex probably, or something equally obscene. His fingers were long, elegant, but I noticed the scars on his knuckles. These were hands that had done damage. "What can I get you?" My voice came out steadier than I expected. Those dark eyes lifted to my face, and for a moment, the world narrowed to just the 2 of us. He studied me with an intensity that made me feel naked, exposed, like he could see every secret I'd ever kept. The corner of his mouth quirked, not quite a smile, but something. Coffee. Black. His voice was deep, smooth like aged whiskey. There was an accent there, subtle but present. Italian, maybe, or something Mediterranean. Anything else? That will be all. Dismissal, clear and final. I nodded and retreated, feeling his gaze on my back like a physical touch. My hands shook as I poured the coffee. black as he'd requested. When I returned to his table, he was on his phone, speaking in rapid Italian to someone. He didn't acknowledge me as I set the cup down, didn't even pause his conversation. I was invisible again. The afternoon dragged on. The man sat in his corner booth, occasionally making calls, occasionally just watching the street through the window. His guards remained at their posts, silent and alert. Other customers gave them a wide berth, sensing something dangerous, even if they couldn't articulate what. At 4 o'clock, the bell chimed again. 2 men entered, but these were different. Ragged clothes, wild eyes, the kind of desperate energy that set off alarm bells in my head. One of them had a gun. I saw it tucked into his waistband as he moved. Oh God, everything happened so fast. The taller one, stringy hair, track marks on his arms, pulled out the gun and fired a shot into the ceiling. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Someone screamed. I dropped the coffee pot I'd been holding, and it shattered on the floor, hot liquid splashing across my legs. "Nobody fucking move!" the gunman shouted. "This is a robbery! Wallets, phones, jewelry, everything in the bag now." His partner, shorter and twitchy, started moving through the diner with a dirty canvas bag. I saw the man in the corner booth shift, saw his guards reach for something, but he stopped them with a slight movement of his hand. His face was calm, almost bored. As he watched the chaos unfold, the shorter robber reached my station, thrust the bag at me. "Come on, bitch, hurry up." I fumbled for my apron pocket, where I kept my tips, maybe $20 in crumpled bills. My phone. That was all I had. I dropped them in the bag with shaking hands. Then they moved to the corner booth. The tall one, the one with the gun, approached the man in the suit. "You. Nice watch. Give it here." The man looked up slowly, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. Not fear. Something colder. More dangerous. "I don't think so," he said quietly. The gunman laughed, a manic sound. "You think you're tough? You think—" He raised the gun, pointing it directly at the man's head. I didn't think, didn't plan. My body just moved. I lunged forward, grabbing the gunman's arm just as he squeezed the trigger. The gun went off, the bullet going wide, shattering the window behind the booth. The recoil knocked me backward, and I fell hard on the broken glass and spilled coffee. Pain lanced through my palms, my knees. Everything exploded into chaos. The 2 guards moved like lightning, guns suddenly in their hands. The shorter robber tried to run and was slammed face first into a table. The gunman whirled toward me, rage contorting his features, and for a moment I thought I was going to die right there on the filthy diner floor. Then the man in the suit was there. He moved faster than should have been possible for someone so large, so solid. One moment he was sitting, the next he had the gunman's wrist in his hand, twisting it with surgical precision. I heard bones crack. The gun clattered to the floor. The gunman screamed. The man in the suit looked down at me, his dark eyes unreadable. "Are you hurt?" I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Blood dripped from my palms where glass had cut into them. My knees throbbed, but I shook my head. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. "Matteo," the man said, not looking away from me. "Handle this." One of the guards, Matteo apparently, nodded and spoke rapidly into a phone. The other guard had both robbers subdued, hands zip-tied behind their backs. The man in the suit crouched down in front of me, and I caught his scent again, that intoxicating mix of cologne and danger. He reached out and I flinched, but he only turned my hand over gently, examining the cuts. "Brave," he murmured, almost to himself. Or foolish. Perhaps both. My voice cracked. I didn't want anyone to get hurt. Those dark eyes met mine, and something passed between us, something electric and terrifying and inevitable. "What's your name?" "Emma," I whispered. "Emma Hayes." He nodded slowly, as if filing this information away somewhere important. "Emma." The way he said my name made it sound like something precious, something worth remembering. The police burst through the door, guns drawn. Everything dissolved into shouting and questions, and hands pulling me to my feet. Paramedics appeared, fussing over my cuts, wrapping my palms in gauze. I watched through the chaos as the man in the suit spoke to the police. Not pleading or explaining, but stating facts in that same calm, authoritative voice. Within minutes, the officers were nodding, deferential. The robbers were hauled away, and then he was gone. Just like that, disappeared into a black SUV that had been waiting outside. I hadn't even noticed it arrive. Rita sent me home early, told me to take the next day off. I walked to the bus stop in a daze, my bandaged hands throbbing. The whole thing felt surreal, like a fever dream. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing those dark eyes, kept feeling the ghost of his touch on my hand, kept wondering who he was, what kind of man traveled with armed guards and made police officers nervous. I should have been afraid. Instead, all I felt was a strange, pulling curiosity, like standing at the edge of a cliff and wanting to jump. The next morning, I woke to the sound of engines rumbling outside my apartment building. Heavy engines. Multiple vehicles. I dragged myself to the window, still half asleep, and looked down at the street below. 4 black SUVs were parked in front of Rosie's diner across the street. Their windows tinted so dark they looked like holes in reality. Men in suits stood beside them, waiting. Watching. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Come to the diner. Now. My heart hammered against my ribs. Every instinct screamed at me to stay inside, lock the door, pretend I'd never seen the message, but I was already reaching for my jacket, already walking toward whatever waited for me below. The morning air bit at my face as I crossed the street, my breath forming small clouds that dissipated into nothing. My bandaged hands were shoved deep into my jacket pockets, both to hide them and to stop their trembling. The SUVs loomed larger with each step, their polished black surfaces reflecting the gray November sky like dark mirrors. One of the men, not Mateo from yesterday, but someone cut from the same cloth, opened the diner door before I could reach for the handle. He didn't speak, just gestured inside with a slight tilt of his head. His eyes never quite met mine, but I felt evaluated nonetheless, measured and catalogued in a single glance. The diner was empty, completely empty. The open sign glowed in the window, but there were no customers, no Rita, no Eddie cursing behind the grill, just silence and the hum of the ancient refrigerator units. He sat in the same corner booth. Daylight streaming through the repaired window caught the angles of his face, making him look almost unreal. He'd removed his suit jacket, and his white shirt was rolled up to his elbows, revealing forearms that were all lean muscle, and more of those scars. A cup of coffee sat in front of him, untouched, steam still rising from its surface. "Sit," he said. Not a request. My legs carried me forward before my brain could engage. I slid into the booth across from him, the vinyl cracking beneath me, and forced myself to meet his gaze. Those dark eyes studied me with the same intensity as yesterday. But there was something different now. Something almost curious. "You didn't have to come," he said finally. "Your text suggested otherwise." The corner of his mouth twitched. "Fair. But you could have run, gone to the police, disappeared." "Should I have?" He leaned back, and the movement was so fluid it seemed choreographed. "Most people would have. Smart people." He paused, his fingers drumming once against the table, a brief break in his otherwise perfect control. "You saved my life yesterday. I started, but he held up one hand. "Don't diminish it. That man was going to shoot me. You stopped him." He reached inside his shirt pocket and pulled out a business card, sliding it across the table. Heavy cardstock. Minimalist design. Just a name and a phone number. Dante Moretti. The name resonated somewhere in the back of my mind. A warning bell I couldn't quite place. I picked up the card with my bandaged fingers, the gauze catching slightly on the paper's edge. "I don't understand what this is," I said slowly. "I pay my debts, Emma." The way he said my name again, like a caress, like a claim, made heat pool in my stomach despite the fear. "You risked your life for mine. That means something. It means I owe you. You don't owe me anything." His eyes darkened. "Yes, I do, and the Moretti family always pays its debts." Moretti. The name clicked into place then, puzzle pieces forming a picture I didn't want to see. I'd heard whispers, read headlines. The Moretti family controlled half the city's underground. Drugs, gambling, protection rackets. They were organized crime royalty, untouchable and dangerous. And I'd saved the life of what? A captain? An enforcer? Who are you? I whispered. I think you've already figured that out. He took a slow sip of his coffee, watching me over the rim. The question is, what I'm going to do about it. My mouth went dry. Are you threatening me? No. The word was immediate, sharp. Never. But you've inserted yourself into my world now, whether you meant to or not. That comes with complications. I just work here. I don't want any part of your world. What you want stopped being relevant the moment you grabbed that gun. He set down his cup with careful precision. Those men yesterday, they weren't random junkies looking for cash. They were sent. A message from the Calabrese family, testing our defenses, seeing if I'd gotten soft. The words washed over me like cold water. I don't understand. You don't need to. He stood, and I had to crane my neck to look up at him. He was even taller than I'd realized, 6'3" at least, all controlled power. But they saw what you did, which means the Calabrese family now knows there's a waitress who matters to Dante Moretti. I don't matter to you. We don't even know each other. Something flickered across his face. Amusement, maybe, or something darker. I've had 8 men watching your apartment since yesterday afternoon, 3 more monitoring the diner. I know you take the number 7 bus to work. I know you share a 2-bedroom walk-up with a roommate named Jessica who works nights at St. Mary's Hospital. I know you moved to this city 6 months ago from Ohio, and you're working 3 jobs to make rent. The blood drained from my face. You had me investigated? I protect what's mine. I'm not yours. The words came out too loud, too sharp. His expression didn't change, but something in the air shifted, became heavier, more dangerous. You became mine when you took a bullet meant for me. He said it so calmly, as if stating a simple fact like the sky being blue or water being wet. Whether you accept that or not doesn't change reality. I stood on shaking legs, my chair scraping against the floor. This is insane. I'm leaving. Sit down, Emma. No. I don't take orders from you. For a long moment we stared at each other, and I saw something like respect flicker in those dark eyes. Then he sighed, a sound almost human, and gestured to the booth. Please, he added. The word sounded foreign in his mouth, unpracticed. 5 more minutes. Then you can leave if you want. Maybe it was the please that did it, that tiny crack in his armor. Or maybe I was just as foolish as he'd suggested. Either way, I sat back down. Better. He returned to his seat, and when he spoke again, his voice had lost some of its edge. I'm not here to threaten you or cage you. I'm here to offer you a choice. What kind of choice? You can go back to your life, keep working here, keep taking the bus, keep struggling to make rent. I'll have my men watching from a distance to make sure the Calabrese family doesn't try anything, but you'll barely notice them. Or, his gaze intensified, or you let me protect you properly. There's a position open at one of my establishments. A high-end restaurant in the business district. Better hours, better pay, better tips, private security. You'd be safe, comfortable. In exchange for what? Nothing. He leaned forward, his elbows on the table, close enough that I could see flecks of amber in his dark eyes. I don't demand payment for protection, Emma. You saved my life. This is me returning the favor. It sounded too good to be true. It was too good to be true. Why do I feel like I'd be trading one cage for another? Because you're smarter than you look. No insult in the words, just acknowledgement. Working for me means entering my world. It means people will assume you're under my protection, which you are, but they'll think it means more. It means you'd be seen as... He paused, choosing his words carefully. Associated with me. As what? Your mistress? The word hung between us, ugly and raw. No, he said quietly. As someone I value. That's all you need to be. My heart hammered so hard I thought he might hear it. And if I say no to both options? His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Then you're a fool. The Calabrese family doesn't forget. They'll come for you eventually, testing to see if you really matter to me, or if you were just collateral damage, and I can't protect you if you won't let me. So it's not really a choice at all. Life rarely offers real choices, Tesoro, just different flavors of consequence. The Italian endearment rolled off his tongue like honey, and I hated how it made my stomach flip. I looked down at my bandaged hands, at the worn formica table, at anything but those penetrating eyes. I need to think about it, I said finally. You have until tomorrow morning. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. My phone buzzed in my pocket. My personal number. Call me with your decision by 9 a.m., or I'll make it for you. You can't just... Yes, I can. He stood again, buttoning his cuffs with precise movements. I can and I will, because leaving you vulnerable is not an option I'm willing to entertain. He pulled on his suit jacket, transforming back into the polished, dangerous man who'd first walked into the diner. One more thing. What? The owners of this establishment have been very understanding about giving you time off, paid time off. Use it wisely. He was gone before I could respond, his guards materializing from wherever they'd been waiting to flank him out the door. Through the window, I watched him slide into the middle SUV, watched the convoy pull away with the smooth precision of a military operation. The diner felt emptier than ever in his absence. My phone buzzed again. Another text from his number. The bandages need changing. There's a doctor at this address who'll see you. No questions asked. Go today. I stared at the screen until it went dark, my reflection ghostly in the black glass. What the hell had I gotten myself into? I went to the doctor. I told myself it was practical. My hands hurt, and I couldn't afford a real hospital visit anyway. The address led me to a brownstone in a neighborhood I'd never have dared enter before, where a woman with kind eyes and no curiosity cleaned my wounds properly and applied fresh bandages. You're lucky, she said as she worked. Could have been much worse. Lucky. Right. I spent the rest of the day in my apartment, staring at Dante's business card, at his number in my phone. Jessica came home from her shift and immediately noticed something was wrong. Em? You okay? Rita said something happened at the diner yesterday. A robbery? Yeah, I'm fine. You don't look fine. You look like you've seen a ghost, more like the devil, I thought. But I forced a smile and changed the subject, and eventually Jessica let it drop. She was too exhausted from her own shift to push, which I was grateful for. How could I possibly explain what had happened? How could I make her understand that I'd somehow stumbled into a world where men had armed guards and personal doctors, and the power to empty diners with a phone call? That night, I dreamed of dark eyes and expensive cologne, of hands with scarred knuckles reaching for me. I woke up tangled in sweat-soaked sheets, my heart racing, desire and fear warring inside me until I couldn't tell them apart. By 8 a.m., I still hadn't decided. By 8:30, I was pacing my apartment, wearing a path in the already worn carpet. At 8:45, my phone rang. Dante's number. I stared at it for 3 rings before answering. You're early, I said. I'm impatient. His voice was rough, like he'd just woken up, and the intimacy of it made my breath catch. Have you decided? I don't want to work for you. Silence. Then, explain. Because once I do, I can't go back. You said it yourself. And I don't want to think I belong to you. I don't want to be owned. I never said anything about owning you. Didn't you? I gripped the phone tighter. You've already decided my life for me. Surveillance, doctors, job offers. You're drawing a cage around me and calling it protection. To keep you alive. The roughness in his voice had transformed into something sharper, almost angry. Do you think this is easy for me? Do you think I enjoy knowing that my enemies might hurt you just to get to me? Then let me go. Forget about me. I can't. The words came out raw, honest. Believe me, I've tried, but every time I close my eyes, I see you lunging for that gun. I see you bleeding on that floor, and I know, that if something happened to you because I didn't protect you, it would destroy something in me I didn't even know could still be destroyed. My throat tightened. You don't even know me. Then let me. A pause. Please. That word again, so foreign and precious coming from him. What are you really asking me, Dante? I'm asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to let me keep you safe. And maybe I'm asking for the chance to know the woman brave enough or foolish enough to take a bullet for a monster. You're not a monster. You don't know what I am. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. But I want you to. God help me. I want you to know all of it and stay anyway. The admission hung between us, vulnerable and terrifying. Okay, I heard myself say. Okay? I'll take the job, but I'm not your property, Dante. I'm not something you own. Agreed. And I want to know the truth, all of it. No more secrets, no more surveillance I don't know about. He was quiet for a long moment. Some truths are dangerous, Emma. I don't care. If I'm stepping into your world, I'm doing it with my eyes open. Then you're braver than I thought. Something that might have been admiration colored his words. A car will pick you up at noon. Bring whatever you want from your apartment. You're moving. What? No. I didn't agree to. Your building has no security. Your locks are cheap. Your windows face a fire escape that any competent assassin could climb in 5 seconds. You're not staying there. Dante. Noon, Emma. Don't make me come get you. He hung up before I could argue further. I stood in my apartment, phone still pressed to my ear, and wondered if I'd just made the best decision of my life or signed my own death warrant. Outside, a black SUV was already parked across the street, waiting, always waiting. The penthouse was obscene. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city like a kingdom laid out for inspection. Marble floors reflected the afternoon sun in brilliant white light. Modern furniture, all clean lines and expensive leather, was arranged with the precision of a museum exhibit. The kitchen had appliances I couldn't name, and the living room alone was larger than my entire previous apartment. This is too much, I said, my voice echoing in the cavernous space. Dante stood by the windows, hands in his pockets, silhouetted against the skyline. He'd removed his jacket again, and I tried not to notice how the white shirt emphasized his shoulders, the way his pants hung perfectly on his hips. It's secure. That's all that matters. Where will I sleep? He turned, and something flickered in his eyes. There are 3 bedrooms. Take your pick. Mine is the master suite on the east side. He paused. You'll have complete privacy. I'm rarely here during the day. Where do you go? Business. The word was a wall, smooth and impenetrable. You start at Maurizio's tomorrow night. It's an upscale Italian restaurant in the financial district. Antonio, the manager, is expecting you. He'll provide the uniform and training. I set down my single duffel bag, everything I'd brought from my old life reduced to one canvas sack, and turned to face him fully. You promised me the truth. No more secrets. His jaw tightened. I promised you'd know what you were getting into. That's not the same as knowing everything. Isn't it? No. He moved closer, and I fought the urge to step back, to maintain the distance that felt like the only safety I had left. My world operates on information, Emma. The wrong word in the wrong ear can start a war, can get people killed. There are things I can't tell you, not because I don't trust you, but because knowing them would make you a target. I'm already a target. You said so yourself. You're under my protection. That's different than being an active player. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that I could see the fatigue in his eyes, the weight he carried. But I'll tell you what I can. Ask me something. Anything. I'd had the whole car ride to prepare my questions, but standing here in this surreal apartment with this dangerous man, only one came out. Why me? His brow furrowed. What do you mean? Why do you care? You could have just posted guards and gone on with your life. Why upend everything for someone you don't even know? He was quiet for a long moment, his gaze searching my face as if looking for something he'd lost. You look like someone, he said finally. Someone from a long time ago. Ice trickled down my spine. Who? My sister. The words were barely audible. Elena. She died when I was 19. She was... He stopped, his throat working. She had your eyes. Your mouth. The way you move sometimes. It's like seeing a ghost. I'm sorry, I whispered. And I was. I could see the grief in him now, buried deep, but still bleeding. Don't be. It's not your fault you remind me of someone I failed to protect. His hands clenched at his sides, the only sign of emotion. But maybe that's why I can't let this go. Can't let you walk away vulnerable, Because I watched Elena die, and I swore I'd never feel that helpless again. The admission hung between us, raw and honest, and I understood then that this wasn't just about debt or honor. This was about a man trying to save a ghost. "I'm not her," I said softly. "I know." He met my eyes again, and the intensity there stole my breath. "That's what terrifies me." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, read the screen, and his expression shifted, the vulnerability disappearing behind a mask of cold authority. "I have to go. Make yourself at home. There's food in the fridge, and if you need anything, there's a number programmed into the house phone. Security will bring up whatever you request. Dante, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Don't be late." He grabbed his jacket and was gone, the door closing behind him with a soft click that felt like a cell door locking. I stood alone in the penthouse, surrounded by luxury I'd never dreamed of, and wondered if I'd made a deal with the devil or just a broken man trying to outrun his demons. That night, I explored my gilded cage. The bedroom I chose overlooked the river, with a bed so large I could spread out like a starfish and still not touch the edges. The bathroom had a tub the size of a small pool, and a shower with more settings than my old car had gears. The closet was a walk-in with empty shelves and racks, waiting to be filled with a wardrobe I didn't own. I found Dante's room more by accident than design, the door slightly ajar as I passed. I shouldn't have looked. I knew I shouldn't have, but curiosity pulled me forward. And before I could stop myself, I was standing in the doorway. His room was surprisingly Spartan. A massive bed with black sheets, a dresser, a chair by the window. But what caught my attention was the wall opposite the bed, covered in photographs, documents, maps. Red string connected different points, creating a web of information that looked like something from a crime thriller. I stepped closer, drawn by morbid fascination. Some photos were of men in expensive suits, their faces marked with X's in red marker. Others showed buildings, warehouses, what looked like shipping manifests. And in the center, a photo of a young woman with dark hair and eyes like mine, Elena. Interested in my work? I spun around so fast I nearly fell. Dante stood in the doorway, his jacket gone, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar. He looked exhausted, dangerous, and something else, vulnerable maybe, at being caught with his defenses down. "I'm sorry," I stammered. "I didn't mean to intrude. The door was open. I left it open." He moved into the room, his eyes never leaving mine. "Part of the truth you wanted. This is what I do, Emma. I hunt the men who killed my sister. The Calabrese family took her from me, and I've spent the last 8 years destroying them piece by piece." I looked back at the wall, at the web of vengeance mapped out in photographs and string. "Is that why they sent those men to the diner? Because you're winning? Because I'm close." He stood beside me now, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. Giorgio Calabrese, the head of the family. He has something I need. Information about the night Elena died. About who gave the order and why. Once I have that, I can finish this. And then what? His laugh was bitter. Then I figure out who I am when I'm not consumed by revenge. I turned to face him, and the proximity stole my breath. We were inches apart, close enough that I could count his eyelashes, see the faint scar above his eyebrow. "You can't get her back, Dante, no matter how many people you destroy." "I know." His voice was rough. "But I can make sure no one else loses a sister because these animals think they're untouchable." His hand came up, almost involuntarily, and his fingers ghosted along my cheek. "I can keep you safe. That has to count for something." The touch sent electricity racing through me. Desire mixing with fear in a cocktail that left me dizzy. I should have pulled away, should have put distance between us. Instead, I leaned into his palm, let my eyes flutter closed for just a moment. "Emma." My name was a warning, a prayer. "You should go. Now." "Why?" "Because I'm not a good man. Because every instinct I have is telling me to pull you close and never let go. And that's dangerous for both of us." His thumb traced my bottom lip, and I shivered. "Because if you stay in this room one more second, I'm going to do something we'll both regret." I opened my eyes and found his gaze burning into mine, dark and hungry and barely controlled. My heart hammered against my ribs, fear and want warring inside me until I couldn't tell them apart. What if I don't want to go? His control cracked. I saw it happen. Saw the moment the careful walls he'd built came crashing down. His other hand came up to cup my face, tilting my head back. And for a breathless second, I thought he was going to kiss me. Instead, he pressed his forehead to mine, his breath coming fast and ragged. Don't do this. Don't make me want something I can't have. Who says you can't have it? I do. He pulled back, and the loss of his touch felt like winter. You're here because I'm keeping you safe. Anything more than that, and I'm no better than the men I hunt. Men who take what they want without care for the consequences. What if I'm offering? Then you don't understand what you're offering. He stepped away, creating physical distance that felt like miles. Go to bed, Emma. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. It was dismissal, clear and final. I left his room on shaking legs, my body still humming with electricity, my mind spinning with thoughts I shouldn't be having about a man who was equal parts protector and predator. I didn't sleep that night, just lay in the too-big bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what game we were playing and how it would end. Maurizio's was everything the diner wasn't. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables draped in white linen. The clientele wore designer clothes and discussed business deals over wine that cost more per bottle than I used to make in a week. The kitchen was immaculate, all stainless steel and choreographed chaos. Antonio, the manager, was a compact Italian man with kind eyes and an accent thicker than Dante's. He walked me through the restaurant, pointing out sections and introducing me to the staff. Everyone was polite, professional, but I saw the curiosity in their eyes. They knew I was connected to Dante somehow, and that made me interesting, or dangerous, or both. You'll start with the smaller tables, Antonio explained, leading me to the staff room. Learn the menu, learn the rhythm. Once you're comfortable, we'll move you to the VIP section. The VIP section? His smile was knowing. Where Mr. Moretti's associates dine. Don't worry, they tip very well. He left me with a uniform, black dress, white apron, simple but elegant, and told me to be ready by 6 for the dinner service. I changed in the bathroom, staring at my reflection in the mirror. I looked different somehow. Older, maybe. More polished. Like I was playing dress-up in someone else's life. The evening shift was intense. I stumbled through orders, mixed up table numbers, spilled wine on my apron, but the other servers were patient, guiding me through the chaos with good humor. And the tips. God, the tips. I made more in one night than I'd made in a week at the diner. At 10 p.m. during a brief lull, Antonio called me to his office. You did well for your first night, he said, gesturing for me to sit. A few mistakes, but nothing terrible. Thank you. Everyone's been very kind. They know you're important. He leaned back in his chair, studying me. Mr. Moretti doesn't bring people into his world lightly. The fact that you're here means you matter to him. I started, but he held up a hand. Whatever you are, it's none of my business. But I've worked for the Moretti family for 20 years, since Dante's father ran things. And I've never seen him look at someone the way he looks at you. My cheeks burned. He doesn't look at me any particular way. Antonio's smile was sad. Keep telling yourself that, Bella, but be careful. Men like Dante, they're dangerous even when they're trying to protect you. Especially then. Before I could respond, shouting erupted from the dining room. Antonio was on his feet instantly, moving with a speed that belied his age. I followed, my heart racing. In the main dining room, 2 men in dark suits faced off across a table. One I recognized. Marco, one of Dante's guards. The other was a stranger, tall and thin with a cruel mouth, and eyes like chips of ice. Tell your boss, the stranger was saying, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent restaurant, that Giorgio sends his regards and his condolences. Marco's hand moved to his jacket, but Antonio was already there, smooth and diplomatic. Gentlemen, please. This is a place of business. Whatever disputes you have, take them elsewhere. The stranger's cold gaze swept the room and landed on me. I froze, pinned by the predatory focus in his eyes. He smiled, slow and terrible. "New girl," he said, "pretty." I can see why Dante's interested. He took a step toward me, and Marco moved to intercept, but the stranger just laughed. "Relax, I'm just delivering a message." His eyes never left mine. "Tell Dante that what he treasures can be taken." Just like he took from us. Then he was gone, disappearing out the front door before anyone could stop him. The restaurant erupted in whispers. Antonio ushered the remaining customers out with apologies and complimentary bottles of wine. Marco grabbed his phone, speaking rapidly in Italian. I stood frozen, the stranger's words echoing in my head. What he treasures can be taken. I wasn't safe here, wasn't safe anywhere, and Dante's protection might be the very thing that got me killed. Dante arrived 20 minutes later, and the temperature in the restaurant dropped 10 degrees. He moved through the front door like a storm given human form, his guards flanking him in tight formation. His face was a mask of cold fury, all the warmth I'd glimpsed in unguarded moments buried beneath ice. When his eyes found me, still standing frozen near the bar where Marco had positioned me, something flickered in their depths. Relief, maybe, or fear. "Tell me exactly what he said." His voice was controlled, but I heard the razor's edge beneath it. "Every word, Emma." I recounted the encounter, my voice steadier than I felt. Dante listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening with each sentence. When I finished, he turned to Marco and spoke in rapid Italian, too fast for me to catch more than a few words. "Calabresi. Threat. Protection. Antonio," Dante said, switching back to English. "Close early. Send everyone home with full pay. Station guards at every entrance. Already done, boss." Antonio nodded toward the kitchen where I could see staff filing out the back exit. "What do you need from me? Keep your ears open. If Giorgio's men are getting bold enough to walk into my establishments, something's changed." Dante's hand clenched at his side. "I want to know what." Antonio left, and suddenly it was just Dante, his guards, and me in the empty restaurant. The silence felt suffocating. "You're angry," I said quietly. His eyes snapped to mine. Angry doesn't begin to cover it. He closed the distance between us in 3 strides, his hands coming up to frame my face, tilting it up so he could examine me. "Did he touch you?" "No. He just looked and talked." Looking is enough. His thumbs traced my cheekbones, the touch gentle despite the fury radiating from him. "I should never have brought you here, should have sent you away the moment those men walked into the diner. You said you couldn't." "I know what I said." He dropped his hands and stepped back, creating distance that felt deliberate. "Matteo, bring the car around. Emma's coming with me." "Where are we going?" "Somewhere they can't find you, somewhere safe." He was already moving toward the door, expecting me to follow, and I did, because what choice did I have? The stranger's cold eyes haunted me, his words about taking what Dante treasured playing on loop in my mind. The SUV was waiting outside, engine purring. Dante held the door open, and I slid into the back seat, the leather cold against my legs. He climbed in beside me, and Matteo took the driver's seat. Another SUV pulled up behind us, Marco and 2 other guards. "Where are we going?" I asked again as we pulled into traffic. "My family's estate, outside the city." Dante stared out the window, his profile carved from granite. "No one knows about it except immediate family and my most trusted men. You'll be safe there." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." That's not an answer. He turned to look at me then, and the raw emotion in his face stole my breath. "Until I end this. Until Giorgio Calabresi is no longer a threat to you or anyone else I care about. You're going to kill him." It wasn't a question, but he answered anyway. "Yes." The certainty in that single word should have terrified me. Instead, I felt something else. Something dark and primal that recognized the predator in him and responded to it. "When?" "Soon." His hand found mine in the darkness of the car, his fingers threading through mine with surprising gentleness. "I've been building toward this for 8 years. Every move, every decision, all leading to one moment, and now that it's finally here, all I can think about is you." "What about me?" "That I'm about to do something that might get me killed, and the thought of leaving you alone is worse than the thought of dying." He laughed, bitter and raw. You've unmade me, Emma. In a matter of days, you've become the thing I can't lose. My throat tightened. You barely know me. I know you're brave. I know you throw yourself at armed men to save strangers. I know you look at me like I'm still human, even after seeing the monster. His grip on my hand tightened. I know that when I thought that bastard might have hurt you tonight, I wanted to burn the entire city to the ground. That's not knowing me. That's obsession. Maybe. He brought my hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to my knuckles that sent heat racing through me, but I'm past pretending otherwise. The rest of the drive passed in charged silence. We left the city behind, the lights fading into darkness as we wound through increasingly rural roads. Trees pressed close on either side, their branches forming a canopy overhead that blocked out the stars. Finally, we turned through iron gates that swung open at our approach. A long driveway led to a sprawling villa, all stone and elegant architecture that spoke of old money and older power. Lights blazed from every window, and I saw more guards positioned at strategic points around the property. "This is your family home?" I asked as Matteo parked near the front entrance. "Was. My father built it for my mother. After they died, I couldn't bring myself to sell it." Dante climbed out and came around to my side, offering his hand. "Elena loved it here. She used to run through those gardens like she owned the world." I took his hand and let him help me out. Our fingers still linked as he led me up the stone steps. The front door opened before we reached it, revealing a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair and sharp eyes. "Dante," she said, her accent thick. "You bring a guest. Emma, this is Rosa. She's managed this estate since before I was born." He squeezed my hand once before releasing it. "Rosa, this is Emma Hayes. She'll be staying here for a while. Give her the blue room overlooking the gardens." Rosa's eyes swept over me, assessing, and I felt suddenly conscious of my waitress uniform, my cheap shoes, the fact that I clearly didn't belong in a place like this, but whatever she saw must have satisfied her, because she nodded and gestured for me to follow. "Come, child. I'll show you to your room." I glanced back at Dante, but he was already deep in conversation with Matteo, his phone pressed to his ear. The moment of vulnerability had passed, replaced by the cold authority of a man planning war. Rosa led me through hallways lined with portraits and expensive art, up a grand staircase, and down another corridor until we reached a door at the end. The blue room was stunning, all soft colors and antique furniture, with French doors that opened onto a balcony overlooking gardens I could barely make out in the darkness. "There are clothes in the closet," Rosa said, moving to light a fire in the stone fireplace. "Dante had them brought from the penthouse. If you need anything else, use the phone by the bed." "Thank you." She paused at the door, studying me again with those sharp eyes. "You're the one from the diner, the one who saved him." "I guess. He hasn't brought a woman here since Elena died." Rosa's expression softened slightly. "Whatever you are to him, be careful. Men like Dante, they don't know how to love without destroying." She left before I could respond, the door clicking shut behind her. I stood alone in the beautiful room, surrounded by luxury that felt like another cage, and wondered if Rosa was right, if being treasured by Dante Moretti was just another form of destruction. I woke to sunlight streaming through the French doors and the sound of voices drifting up from the gardens below. For a disoriented moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then it all came crashing back. The restaurant, the threat, the midnight drive to this estate. I climbed out of bed and moved to the balcony, pushing open the doors. The gardens were breathtaking in daylight, all manicured hedges and flower beds that probably cost more to maintain than most people's mortgages. And in the center, on a stone patio, Dante sat at an iron table with 3 other men. Even from this distance, I could feel the tension. Papers were spread across the table, and one of the men, older, with silver hair, was gesturing emphatically while speaking in Italian. Dante listened with that same cold focus I'd seen in the restaurant, occasionally interjecting with questions or commands. This was him in his element. The Don, the boss, the man who held life and death in his hands. I should have been terrified. Instead, I couldn't look away. As if sensing my gaze, Dante's head turned, his eyes finding mine across the distance. Even from here, I felt the impact of that look, possessive, protective, hungry. He said something to the men, then stood and walked toward the villa, disappearing from view. My heart hammered as I heard footsteps in the hallway, then a knock at my door. "Come in," I called, already knowing who it would be. Dante entered, and he looked different in daylight, softer somehow, despite the same expensive suit and controlled movements. He'd shaved, and I caught the scent of his cologne as he crossed to where I stood on the balcony. "You slept well?" he asked. "As well as can be expected." I gestured toward the gardens. "Important meeting?" "Planning." He leaned against the balcony railing, his eyes on the horizon. "Giorgio has made his move by threatening you. Now I make mine." "When?" "Tonight." He turned to face me, and I saw the resolve in his expression. "There's a shipment coming in. Weapons that Giorgio needs for a territorial push. We're going to intercept it, cut off his supply line and force him into the open." Fear coiled in my stomach. "That sounds dangerous." "It is." "Then why are you telling me? Why not just keep me here in ignorance?" His jaw tightened. "Because you asked for the truth, because you deserve to know what's happening and why." He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Because if something goes wrong tonight, I need you to know that everything I've done, bringing you here, protecting you, turning your life upside down, all of it was to keep you safe. Dante, listen to me." His hands framed my face, his forehead dropping to rest against mine. "If I don't come back, Matteo has instructions. He'll take you somewhere far from here, set you up with a new identity, enough money to start over. The Calabrese family will have no reason to come after you if I'm gone. Stop talking like you're already dead." I'm being realistic. His breath ghosted across my lips, and desire pooled hot and urgent in my stomach. "I've made a lot of enemies, Emma. Tonight I'm walking into a situation where any one of them could end me. I need to know you'll be okay if that happens. I don't want you to die for me. I'm not dying for you. I'm living for you." His thumbs traced my cheekbones, and I saw his control cracking again, saw the want in his eyes that matched the ache in my own chest. "That's what you've given me. A reason to survive this instead of just seeking revenge. Then survive it." I grabbed his shirt, fisting the expensive fabric in my hands. "Come back to me. Emma." My name was a warning, a plea. I didn't let him finish. I pulled him down and pressed my lips to his. For a heartbeat, he froze. Then his control shattered completely. He kissed me like a drowning man finding air, his hands sliding into my hair, tilting my head to deepen the angle. His mouth was hot and demanding, tasting of coffee and something darker, more dangerous. I melted against him, all my fears and doubts burning away in the heat of his touch. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were nearly black with desire. "That was a mistake," he said roughly. "I don't care. You should." But even as he said it, he was kissing me again, backing me into the room, his hands sliding down my sides to grip my hips. "You should run from me, should hate me for what I am. I can't." The admission came out breathless as his lips found my neck, my collarbone, the hollow of my throat. "I've tried." He lifted his head, and the vulnerability in his face broke something in me. "If I start this, I won't be able to stop, won't be able to let you go. Good." I pulled him down for another kiss, pouring everything I couldn't say into it. The fear, the desire, the impossible connection that had formed between us in such a short time. His phone buzzed, shattering the moment. Dante pulled away with a curse, checking the screen. His expression hardened. "I have to go. The meeting, they need final authorization." "Tonight," I said. "You'll come back tonight." It wasn't a question, but he answered anyway, pressing one last kiss to my forehead. "Tonight." "I promise." Then he was gone, leaving me alone with my racing heart and the taste of him still on my lips. I stood on the balcony and watched him return to the meeting, watched him transform back into the cold, controlled Don who planned wars and ended lives. And I prayed to a God I'd stopped believing in that he'd keep his promise. That tonight wouldn't be the last time I saw him alive. The hours crawled by like years. Rosa brought me lunch on a silver tray. Soup I couldn't taste, bread I couldn't swallow. She didn't ask questions, just squeezed my shoulder once before leaving me alone with my spiraling thoughts. I paced the blue room until I'd memorized every detail, the way afternoon light painted gold across the hardwood floors, the faint smell of roses drifting up from the gardens, the distant sound of guards changing shifts. Dante had left at noon with Matteo and a convoy of SUVs. The villa felt emptier in his absence, like all the air had been sucked out and replaced with waiting. By 7 p.m., I couldn't take it anymore. I left my room and wandered the halls, finding my way to what must have been Dante's study. The door was unlocked, and inside, I found more evidence of the man behind the monster. Shelves lined with books in Italian and English, a desk covered in paperwork, and on the wall, more photographs of Elena. She'd been beautiful, dark hair cascading past her shoulders, eyes that sparkled with mischief and joy. In one photo, she stood beside a younger Dante, both of them laughing at something off camera. He looked so different then. Lighter, unburdened by the weight of revenge. She would have liked you. I spun around to find Rosa in the doorway, carrying fresh towels. "I'm sorry," I said quickly. "I shouldn't have—" "It's fine." She set down the towels and moved to stand beside me, studying the photographs. Elena had your spirit, that same fire that made her throw herself into danger without thinking of the consequences. Rosa's smile was sad. She died trying to help someone. A girl being attacked by Calabrese soldiers. Elena intervened, and her voice broke. Dante found her too late. He held her while she bled out in an alley, and something in him died with her that night. Tears burned my eyes. I didn't know. He doesn't talk about it. Just hunts the men responsible with a patience that terrifies even his allies. Rosa turned to me, her sharp eyes seeing too much. "Until you. You're the first thing I've seen him care about besides revenge in 8 years. I don't understand why. We barely know each other. Love doesn't always need time. Sometimes it just needs the right moment, the right person." She patted my hand. "But love with a man like Dante? It's complicated. Dangerous. Are you prepared for that? I don't think I have a choice anymore." "We always have choices, child. The question is whether we're brave enough to make them." She left me alone with Elena's photographs and my churning thoughts. I stayed in the study until darkness fell, until the only light came from a lamp on Dante's desk. I sat in his chair, surrounded by his scent, cologne and leather and something uniquely him, and prayed. The call came at 11 p.m. Rosa burst into the study, her face pale. "It's Matteo. There's been shooting. Dante, he's been hit." The world tilted sideways. "What? Where is he?" "They're bringing him here. The hospital isn't safe. Too many Calabrese informants." She grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "He asked for you, kept saying your name." I ran. Down the hallways, down the grand staircase, through the front door, and out into the night where headlights were cutting through the darkness. The lead SUV screeched to a halt, and Matteo jumped out, his shirt covered in blood. "He's alive," Matteo said before I could ask. "Bullet caught his shoulder. Lost a lot of blood, but he's alive." 2 guards emerged from the back seat, half carrying, half dragging Dante between them. His face was ashen, his shirt soaked red, but his eyes found mine immediately. "Emma." My name came out rough, pained. "I'm here." I rushed to his side, my hands hovering uselessly. "I'm right here." They carried him inside to a room I hadn't seen before. A medical suite complete with monitors and equipment that looked like it belonged in a hospital. A doctor was already waiting, a woman with steady hands and no questions. "Out," she ordered. "All of you except the one holding his hand." She meant me. I realized I'd grabbed Dante's hand without thinking, was clutching it like a lifeline. The others filed out, leaving just the 3 of us in the sterile room. "This is going to hurt," the doctor said to Dante as she cut away his shirt, revealing the wound in his shoulder. Blood still oozed from the entry point, dark and thick. "The bullet went through. That's good. Means I won't have to dig for it. But I need to clean and stitch." "Just do it," Dante gritted out. What followed was brutal. The doctor worked with efficient precision, cleaning the wound with alcohol that made Dante's hand tighten around mine until I thought my bones would crack. He didn't scream, didn't make a sound except for harsh breathing through clenched teeth. But I felt his pain in every tremor, every spike in his pulse where my fingers pressed against his wrist. "Talk to me," he said suddenly, his eyes squeezed shut. "Please, Emma. Talk to me." "About what?" "Anything, everything. I need to hear your voice." So I talked. I told him about Ohio, about my childhood in a small town where everyone knew everyone, about my mother who'd died when I was 16, my father who'd remarried too quickly to a woman who made it clear I wasn't welcome, about coming to the city with nothing but hope and a duffel bag, about working 3 jobs and still barely scraping by. "I was drowning," I whispered as the doctor began stitching. Every day felt like treading water, knowing eventually I'd go under. And then you walked into that diner and everything changed. You changed it. His eyes opened, finding mine. "For better or worse, I don't know yet." I brushed sweat-dampened hair from his forehead. "Ask me again when you're not bleeding all over expensive sheets." That pulled a ghost of a smile from him. "Deal." The doctor finished 30 minutes later, bandaging his shoulder with tight professional efficiency. "You'll live, but you need rest. Real rest. Not whatever macho bullshit you're planning." She packed up her supplies. "I'll be back tomorrow to check the wound. Call if there's fever or increased bleeding." She left, and suddenly it was just the 2 of us in the quiet room. Dante struggled to sit up, and I helped him, propping pillows behind his back. "What happened out there?" I asked. "We intercepted the shipment, but Giorgio was expecting us, had twice the men we anticipated." His jaw tightened. "We lost 2 of mine, good men with families. I'm sorry." "So am I." He reached for me with his good arm, pulling me down to sit on the edge of the bed. "But we got what we came for, the weapons, and more importantly, Giorgio's ledger. Names, dates, every dirty deal he's made in the last 5 years, including proof that he ordered the hit on Elena." My breath caught. "So it's over?" "Almost." His hand cupped my face, thumb stroking my cheek. "I have enough to bury him now, to turn over to the authorities and watch him rot in prison, or what? Or I can end it myself, 1 bullet, clean and final. The way he deserves." I heard the question beneath the words. What kind of man did I want him to be? The one who sought justice through the system? Or the one who took it with his own hands? "What do you want?" I asked quietly. He was silent for a long moment, his dark eyes searching mine. I thought I wanted his blood, thought nothing else would satisfy the rage that's been eating me alive for 8 years. His hand slid into my hair, cradling the back of my head. "But sitting in that SUV, bleeding, thinking I might die before seeing you again. All I wanted was this. You. A chance at something other than revenge. You can have both." "No." His voice was firm. "If I kill him, I become exactly what Elena would have hated. A murderer who puts vengeance above everything else, including the people I love." He pulled me closer, until our foreheads touched. "I'm choosing you, Emma. I'm choosing life over death." The words cracked something open in my chest. "You love me? Terrifyingly. Completely. From the moment you grabbed that gun without hesitation." His smile was soft, vulnerable. "I don't deserve you. Don't deserve this second chance. But if you'll have me, broken and damaged, and probably too possessive for my own good, I swear I'll spend the rest of my life being worthy of you." I kissed him, tasting salt and copper and hope. "You're already worthy, liar," he murmured against my lips. "Beautiful liar." We stayed like that for a long time, wrapped up in each other, the night quiet around us. Finally, exhaustion pulled at him, his eyes drooping despite his best efforts to stay awake. "Sleep," I whispered. "I'll be here when you wake up. Promise?" "Promise." I watched him drift off, his breathing evening out, his face relaxing into something almost peaceful. Then I slipped out of the room and found Matteo waiting in the hallway. "How is he?" Matteo asked. "Alive. Choosing justice over revenge." I met his eyes. "What happens now?" "Now we turn over everything we have to the federal prosecutor, a man Dante's family has carefully cultivated as an ally over the years. Giorgio Calabresi will be arrested by morning, along with most of his top lieutenants. The family will be dismantled from the inside. And Dante? Walks away clean. He's always been careful to keep his hands relatively unstained. No drugs, no human trafficking, nothing that can't be explained as legitimate business. Matteo's smile was grim. He learned from his father's mistakes. Built an empire that can withstand legal scrutiny while still commanding respect in the underworld. It should have bothered me, this pragmatic approach to criminality. But I'd stopped pretending Dante was anything other than what he was. A man who operated in shades of gray, who balanced brutality with honor, who commanded an empire built on fear and loyalty in equal measure. And somehow, impossibly, I loved him anyway. 3 months later, I stood in the gardens of the villa, watching spring paint the world in shades of green and gold. Giorgio Calabrese had been convicted on 12 counts of racketeering, murder, and conspiracy. He'd die in prison, a slow death that felt more fitting than a bullet ever could have. The Moretti Empire had stabilized, the power vacuum filled by Dante's careful maneuvering. He'd restructured, pivoting toward legitimate businesses while maintaining enough of the old ways to keep his position secure. It was a delicate balance, but he walked it with the same controlled grace he brought to everything. I heard his footsteps on the stone path behind me, felt his arms wrap around my waist, his chin resting on my shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "How different my life is now, how 3 months ago I was invisible. Now I gestured to the gardens, the villa, the life we were building together. "This. Visible," he finished. "Treasured, mine." I turned in his arms, looping my hands around his neck. The scar on his shoulder had healed to a thin white line, a reminder of the night everything changed. "Yours," I agreed, "but you're mine too. That's how this works." I like the sound of that. He kissed me, slow and sweet, the kind of kiss that spoke of time and tomorrow and all the days after. When we broke apart, he pulled a small box from his pocket. I was going to wait, do something elaborate and romantic. But I've never been good at waiting. He opened the box, revealing a ring. A simple band with a single diamond that caught the sunlight and threw rainbows across the garden. "Marry me," he said. Not a question, but not quite a command either. Something in between, something that left room for me to choose. "Let me spend the rest of my life keeping you safe and happy, and so thoroughly loved you'll never doubt it." "That's not very romantic," I teased, even as tears pricked my eyes. "No?" His smile was crooked, vulnerable. "How about this? You saved my life, and now I want to spend every day of mine giving you reasons to be glad you did. You walked into my darkness and somehow made me want to find the light. I'm not a good man, Emma, but I'm trying to be better, for you. Because of you. Yes." The word came out choked with emotion. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly, like it had always belonged there, like I'd always belonged here, in this garden, in his arms, in this impossible life we'd stumbled into together. We were an unlikely pair, the waitress and the dawn, the woman who'd had nothing, and the man who'd had everything except peace. But somehow, against all odds, we'd found each other. Found something worth fighting for beyond revenge or survival. Found love in the last place either of us expected. "I love you," I whispered against his lips. "And I love you," he replied. "My brave, foolish Emma. My salvation." The gardens bloomed around us, spring promising renewal and growth and endless tomorrows. In the distance, I could hear Rosa humming in the kitchen, guards changing shifts, life continuing in its complicated, messy, beautiful way. I'd saved a stranger's life in a moment of instinct, and he'd given me a future I'd never dared to dream of. Not perfect. Nothing with Dante could ever be simple or easy, but real, honest in its complications. And as he kissed me again, the sun warm on our faces and the promise of forever hanging in the air between us, I knew I'd make the same choice 1,000 times over. I'd grab that gun, stop that bullet, step into his dangerous world, because some people are worth the risk. Some loves are worth the chaos. And Dante Moretti, broken, possessive, trying so hard to be the man I deserved, was worth everything.